failed rapper.
Oh man. What's it? I'm nearly left at this time.
Is it kicked in?
No.
What's that on?
TikTok. Yeah, it has now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that on?
TikTok. Yeah, it has now. Yeah.
What a delay.
Mhm. You can't see
Right.
you.
What can't it can?
On here.
What can't it can? No, that was.
There you go.
Oh, and the,
It should be.
is it right? I'll get you. Do you what happened to Bobby Schmurder?
No, I think.
He tried to set up a tour.
No.
He tried to set up a tour. They had to cancel it because he was averaging 10 sales a venue.
Is that it? Dang. We have got no bangers in. He's only
10
got
sales? 10 tickets a venue.
10 tickets?
10 tickets per venue is his average.
That is some madness, that.
He's only got like 10 good songs.
He's got 10. Boy,
Yeah,
I only
sorry.
know I only know
Why did I
2.
say 10? I didn't say.
I only know 2.
Yeah. I know he's got
Oh
one.
my god, that
Yeah.
girl joined the TikTok.
Eh?
Which one?
Lola and the Femi.
They've joined it.
Oh, welcome.
She's probably just heard me. I've watched the TikToks before.
Okay.
Oh, hey, welcome.
Big up Lola.
How you doing?
Yeah. Alright.
She's heard me.
Yeah, man.
I
Okay.
So it's about the big question then.
So
What's
you're
the big
like,
question?
Well, the big question is what's going down in Africa.
you're
Oh,
like,
what's going on?
Sorry.
Well, I'm just finding out
so you're talking
now
into it.
because I'm just finding out now because I was watching the thing. What's it called? What's it called?
Burkina
Sorry.
Faso.
Burkina Faso.
thing is,
Yeah. I was just finding out about it now.
Well, it has been a talk.
Yeah,
It has been a talk, but my question is really about the diaspora
Yeah.
and
Okay.
the fact that if Africa is standing up now, what's the diaspora doing in the light of we are under it ourselves with this discrimination and all this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Right, because if Africa free up itself,
Yeah.
what about us?
Yeah. Well, I think we need to do a lot more as a country.
As a country, when you say as a country,
as a country as general English.
right, in
The general English, and I'd say American. I put
all the diaspora,
Westerners, yeah.
the diaspora.
Us Westerners, right? Need to do a little bit of more observing and a little less being judgmental of Africa.
Well,
Do you know what I mean? And I think in general we need to do a little before because before we jump up in support. You know, because you'll get the ones that'll jump up in the support and all of a sudden they'll find their dashikis in their wardrobe again that they haven't touched in 10 years, and they'll do the running around and they'll find the Africa badges again, and they'll put them. But we need to do a little bit more observing, a little bit more paying attention, and a little less talking before, because we've done a lot of turning up our nose at that continent developing itself, you know. Not the enlightened ones, do you know what I mean? Not ones that know better. I'm talking about the general.
that's an acknowledgement.
Yeah.
But I'm beyond that.
Yeah.
Because it's not about Africa.
Mm.
It's about Europe
Yeah.
and the way Europe treats us
Yeah.
as black man, alright?
Yeah.
Because this racism lark has been going on for a long time, just like Africa being under the Western thing for a long time.
Yeah.
Africa now is standing up to say no more.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we saying? Because it's not about Africa. You concentrate
A little
on
bit
Africa
better.
and it dying down in Africa
Yeah.
because the badge gone. We're not talking about Africa.
Yeah.
We're talking about where we are
Well, where we are.
and our standard
Well,
here.
I think that
Right. Sorry to disrupt you. You might have to come in a bit because it's
okay. Will it pick me up if I come in here?
Yeah, we can bring the mic over to
Yeah.
you a bit.
If it'll pick me up, then it's fine.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
I'm in camera, I'm in shot.
No, on there you are, but on there you're both chopped out a bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
So you need to bring his in a bit.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that was the only problem that I was seeing is that.
It won't twist that way, will it?
I think that's about as far as it's gonna go. As long as it's picking me up though, it's fine.
Yeah, it is.
As long as it's picking me up, it's fine. As long as I'm in shot. Yeah.
It's picking him up
Yeah,
alright.
it's picking me up, so.
Alright,
It'll be okay.
We'll leave it. We could have put it to that one.
Yeah, no, it'll be alright.
Your mic needs picking up off the table. Anything like that, you're gonna hear it. Yeah. So we there. So
it's alright.
so we just doing a what?
Yeah, I know. Well, Ernest was asking me what the diaspora should be doing in terms of what we're dealing with racism in this country, and I think just aside from, personally, I think just aside from the N word being thrown at us all the time, I think most people are kind of don't care. I think most people don't care. You get the ones that act like they care a lot more than they actually do. And as long as they get to pay their bills, they're okay.
No, but that's the shallow version
Yeah,
of the racism.
yeah.
I'm talking about the big face of
Well,
racism.
institutional.
It's institutional.
Institutional. Well, what it is that as long as it's just
No,
it's
what are we-
financial.
Well,
I mean, the answer is economic. It's always has been. It's like it's just independence of the way that we. It's infrastructure, independence of economic infrastructure.
which is what Africa is all talking
Yeah,
about.
it's economic
Alright.
infrastructure. But so it's really a thing of knowing your rights and knowing when you're getting played with. That's what my mum was saying. It's when you're getting played with by the systems that seem to have problem with you wanting to build your own economic infrastructure. Do you know what I mean? Like, as long as you've got your system in place and it's legit and it's functioning, there should be no reason why you should be getting any opposition from your country.
From your country, what do you mean?
Well, from this country, from England, from this country, when you're trying to build yourself or build your community up, because that's what it is. It's that's what the real answer is. Really, it's like we need to be self-contained.
Well, again, I feel that's shallow.
Okay, so what do you think, Ernest?
The mindset that I'm talking about is right now, all war fighting in regards to the Africa question is being fought in Africa by the West. The West is fighting Africa. The West is not feeling anything. Africa is not in the West.
Yeah.
The diaspora is in the West.
Yeah.
In that mindset, I say, well, what's the diaspora doing? Because everything has to be in hand with each other,
Okay.
right? So the diaspora needs to awaken itself with the whole argument, because it's about sorting ourselves out as well.
Okay, so I mean, are we talking about how we run our communities, or are we talking about Garvism? Are we talking about bring back Garvism and let's get these boats, and we need to be going back to Africa and building our
That's an end
economic
goal.
structure?
No, that's an end goal.
So okay, so while we are here, then it's
Whilst we're here,
while we are
I mean,
here.
to be honest, how best do we support the regime? We got to make the West feel what it's doing to Africa, okay? Because they only see in Africa, the West is fighting Africa. In Africa,
Yeah.
Africa cannot fight the West from Africa.
So we have to let them know that it affects us too.
We gotta just show it affects us. It's not. We
Yeah,
gotta
but
show it.
the thing is, I think that a lot of, like I said, genuinely, English black people don't care. I don't think they care what's going on in Africa. I think they need to pay a lot more attention of how Africa is moving.
It's the big
And if they don't have, and if they don't have the respect for the continent, it's not gonna. Like I said,
What about for themselves?
it's bad. People are just trying to pay their bills. People are just trying to pay their bills. If they don't know how spiritually and innately in them they're connected and it affects them what is going on over there, they're just trying to pay their bills. You know, like I said, it's not even like the 90s. It's not even like the 90s where we all felt a certain way when that Mandela became free. It's like it's not even that kind of mindset anymore. Do you know what I mean? It's barely that. You know, like it's all gone very superficial. That's why it's like the last time you really saw people connect back to the motherland was Black Panther. That's a movie. Like, you know what I mean? It's really there's a decay of meaning.
I mean,
Like,
you know what my biggest surprise is in what all is happening? That the actual Africans in the diaspora have not mobilized themselves into some kind of fashion.
Yeah.
Because when you hear about what's going on in Gaza, and then you got they got all this thing going on, support Gaza left, right, and center, right? Where's our support? Where's the voice to say, yes, this is what we have to do? And the African nation that is in England, right? What are they doing? Because at the end of the day, right?
Like, there's either two things. They're either here to get an education to go back over there and do their duties, or they're doing nothing.
Currently, their duties is to support the regime. This is what we're saying. Everything that is set up for us to do is to support the regime. This man is talking about our regime. And all that regime gone. We're talking about what we are gonna do. Right? It's a serious question.
I'm giving you a serious answer though. Them days are almost gone. Very few.
So you would
very
say,
few.
So you would say that the Africa fights alone.
Yes. Yeah, right now, yes. That's what I think the reality is. That I think, like I said, it's like black people in the Western world don't even respect the continent as their ancestral bloodline. Like, that's gone. Do you know what I mean? Like, America is talking about we're Black Americans. Like, they don't even want to call themselves African Americans anymore.
I went to a talk
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that was talking about Malcolm X and what Malcolm X was all about. And the one thing that struck out in my mind when he came out of the Muslim sect, I come out of that because I understand. right, was the fact that there are people that believe they're American. There are people that believe the English.
Yeah.
There are people that believe the whatever nation
Caribbean.
they
Caribbean.
put them in,
Yeah, Caribbean.
right? And they want them, their mindsets relate to that,
Yeah.
right? They don't see that there are descendants of the African nation,
That's right.
right? And that is the travesty. I
Yeah.
grew up
Yeah.
understanding all of that.
Yeah.
So what you're saying now is these youth man that growing up have never had that instilled in them.
Yeah, yeah. It's very different now. It's like, you know, I'm from here, and especially in the Western world, it's like money. People worship money. Money and attention are worshipped much more than anything in this time. And it was a thing where it was like, okay, you need to have a business mindset. It's like, okay, you know, no matter what you're doing, you have to have a business mindset and learn how to navigate the Western world. But it's got to a point now where people worship money and worship attention. They feed for attention, they worship money. And so
Would you say that's true? No.
No, I agree with him in a certain point, because what you got to understand is this culture that we are in brings that. It's because of the culture that we're in. We understand all of that because it's what it's done to us to make us so. Right? This is a new mindset. You hear about this New World Order, right? Now the New World Order still have us in the same position it had us in the old order, right? So if this New World Order go come, I'm not the one to sit down and say you're going to put me in the same place. I'm for the New World Order, but we got to start putting our world order in. Because at the end of the day, I'm not going in the world that they say they want to go in. And this is what we're trying to get across. Because at the end of the day, the Africa mindset is our mindset. And we in the diaspora, right, have to switch on to that and do what we got to do. I mean, this is the question, diaspora, right? Because we all have to become a diaspora before we could say anything as to how we're going to do whatever, right? It's just the question that is asked.
What do you think one important step is in becoming a diaspora? You know,
the question.
Sorry.
The question is the biggest thing, because the answers that follow.
So ask the question.
The question is what we are do as a diaspora.
You just need the track again.
The solution.
The diaspora has a solution, but the diaspora has not come together as a diaspora to be the solution. Because we in every country in this world, right? And the fact that we're in every single country in this world, if we stand up and support of Africa, change the dynamics, because it's not just happening in Africa, it's happening all over the world. So you got to address it, right? What you do to Africa, you're hurting yourself, because we're here. And that's the mindset, right?
Now I agree with you. I agree with you. I just think that the problem is that, like I said, I just think that spiritually, the Western world, black people in the Western world are almost at back to like ground zero with that mindset. I think there's just a
Everything goes wrong now.
All right. Yeah, I just think that there's a lot more of a disconnect. Well, I saw it more when you get into like from like our age to like 25.
Right.
It's starting to get we're getting weary.
Okay.
Hopefully, I hope that
Mhm.
there's a spiritual awakening within the teenagers
Right.
to the 25.
Yeah.
Like if they're becoming more, because you know, with the access of
Mhm.
internet
Yeah.
and stuff like that, if they are becoming more socially like aware of what's going on and they're feeling connected,
Yeah.
then
Mhm.
that's a start, because that's going to lead to wanting information and wanting to assemble.
Okay.
You know,
I get what you
assemble
mean.
and raise awareness.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? But if you've got people, if you're gonna be like like the dudes that are trying to sell you to sell you insurance on the street, and you're just like, I don't want to hear that. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
If you can go back,
Okay.
it's a hard road. Not to say it's not something that should be done,
Mhm.
I mean,
but I don't think it's gonna be a thing where like it's gonna be. I'd like to be wrong, but I just don't think it's going to be a thing where you're just going to be instantly able to raise awareness and people will mobilize.
this is the one thing about this society that we live in, right? And that is, if they see we are duo, right? They then find a way to somehow circumnavigate what we are trying to do,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
right? So,
I know what you mean by that.
and this is the question is, because we need to consciously be on what may I say.
Yeah.
Right? Because a word is all it needs.
Yeah.
There's nothing. It's just a word.
Yeah.
But you
And
see,
then we know.
I think what you're saying, yeah, is that as we come to an age, we get stuck in a routine. We become less aware and less willing to fight for that, yeah, for what we believe like that, yeah. We get stuck in a bit more domesticated, I'd say. It was when you're young, yeah. When you're young, you know, you feel like you can take on the world, yeah, and you will go and for what you believe. But as we, you know, certain things as like money and responsibilities and certain other things, they seem
What
to
the West
get
has
involved.
put into us.
Yeah, that's right. So what I'm saying to you is, do you think it's important for us to approach the youngers? Do you think the elders are a bit past it?
No.
No.
I think the elders have become lethargic and
Yeah.
and what's the word I'm looking for? No, I'll just leave it as lethargic.
Yeah.
Because we have been talking on these levels for so many times.
So do you think they can be directed? Because if they're lethargic, then they're not, you know, sharp with what.
I think the one thing that I believe them want to see is the Savior. That's what them are waiting for.
Right.
The Savior. Because them say, when the Savior come, right, everything gonna be turned round and everything started up.
That's been a saying from as long as
Them are
the
waiting
black
for
the
Savior.
Messiah. Yeah, the black
Them are
Messiah.
waiting for their Savior.
right.
Right? Mine said, we are the Saviors.
Okay.
Right? And we are waiting for ourselves.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? And the awakening is to say, we're not waiting for nothing. We are the ones. And we just gotta do it. As I said, this system has a way. Right? So we as a diaspora have to be careful how we do what we do. Right? Right now it's a question, a mindset. Get in contact with us.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's a mindset. Nobody has said nothing. We know what we got to do. Right?
Yeah.
But we got to get the mindsets
Yeah.
to follow what we are saying.
The think.
Well, I think in this day, and age, that the first thing you have to do is prove the liar before you tell the truth, because what a lot of people are these days now more than ever is pacified. There are so many more ways to make people very comfortable, and most people fear discomfort more than anything. Fear, but. So what? And then I lose my house, and then what? I end up homeless, and then what? I go jail, and then what? I lose my job. Because now it's very easy now when you talk. But I'm not saying.
But that's a foolish way to think. Because that.
Well, no. I don't think that's a foolish way to think, because these things will happen.
No. I'm not saying the word. I've never told you. You always have to pay the paymaster.
Yeah.
You always have to pay the paymaster.
But most people fear that.
And I'm saying, I'm not telling nobody not to pay their paymaster. Not telling nobody to do that, because that is what they would think we would do if we do something so. I'm saying pay your paymaster, right? When you don't finish pay that, this is what we're on. Right?
Yeah, but we haven't got past that stage yet. That, you know, we have these situations where people, they're in the limelight or whatever, and then something happens and they get brought down to earth, put underneath it, publicly, and people stand away from them. They turn their back on them and tell them they should have done this, they should have done that, they should have. Do you know what I mean? They shouldn't have
ran your mouth. You should have done it.
So it is a good point that people do fear that, and we can't, we can't ignore that, because it's happening. And
like I said, it will, because it will happen. My thing is that it will happen, because you're already seeing, like you see with Israel versus Palestine. You see when people decide to pick up the flag and things shut down for them. You know, so it's that kind of thing of where, people need to be in a mind state where their belief and their need to fight for what's right is
ultimate.
Yes.
It's the ultimate.
Yes.
Africa freedom is the ultimate.
And when you have people that are of that mindset.
Are we not?
Yeah. But not everybody. Not everybody is. Do you know what I mean? You have to know that it's a very small army. Like it's a very small army. It's like, especially over in the Western world, it's very small. And like I said, you've got even more people, and more people. It's more because they don't even feel connected to Africa anymore.
Physically, it's a small army.
No, physically, it's a small army. But
mindset is a big army.
No, I don't think it is. I think it's smaller. I think mindset is smaller.
But that's what this is what the question is about, right? Yeah. Because everything in this society, right, takes us away from that big question, right? Africa is standing up for itself, right? We have been under it ourselves. All our life we've been under it, right? Our children are growing up in it, right? And we're sick of it. We are sick of it. We are. Yet we're still going down the same road. Africa's now standing up. We need to stand up, right? At the end of the day, if the diaspora, right, decide, right, we got a mindset, we need to change this now, right? That pressure gone on this government to address it. Because we're not just talking about 1 and 2. I'm talking about us standing up and saying what we say, right? This country has to look after its own affairs. Can't bother itself with Africa because you got it here. In all of them different countries, if we all stand up and say, well, they're going to stay in their country to protect their country, they ain't going to be fighting all the way over in Africa, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Right? And that's the whole point. That we take the pressure off of Africa, right? Europe is trying to take over Africa, right? Let's just do what we got to do. We're in Europe, right? The pressure on the governments here, stop them going over there, because that's the only reason why you got pressure here. You want to support us going back under. We're not into that. Stop supporting them, right? Leave Africa alone, right? Support your own home, because this is what's going to happen in your own home, right? It's a mindset, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, you see, it gets a bit tricky, yeah, because Africa's so wealthy and it's being, you know, robbed of so much things. Yeah, to watch the wording in it, but yeah, it's all that's going on. And when you say, all right, we leave them alone, yeah, a lot of countries are going to struggle. They won't be able to keep up this high life that's going on. Do you know what I'm saying? Things will just plummet.
It will. And we are frightened of that because of the luxuries we got.
Yeah.
Right? But again, it's with this Western mindset.
Exactly.
Do you know what? I think a lot of people are not actually aware that it's because I think some people are, but I don't think some people are really aware how it connects. Yeah, that if certain things are pulled the plug on, then the luxury does go.
Yeah.
I don't think they realise that, you know.
No,
because it's not being told or not being. You've got to kind of work them things out. Do you know what I mean?
England come out of Europe.
Yeah.
Everything I'm talking about don't happen, innit?
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
And that is with England just coming out of Europe.
Yeah.
Imagine if the diaspora now put the pressure on them.
Yeah.
Right?
So like put more
to just come out. No, we just want you to come out. Stop supporting America. Stop supporting those countries that don't support Africa being free. That's what it's about.
Yep.
Right? We pressurize them countries that are saying, even all them American man, right? That say Donald Trump will do all of this kind of thing. He's the one that wants to really attack Africa being free. Diaspora in America, they're already standing up because I'm against him. But there's a bigger fight to do now with the black.
Well, yeah, but I'd love to know who. I'd love to know who in America are still, because aside from my mum, we've seen that, but who's actually paying attention? Because I don't know, because I'd seen the beginning half of this year where black Americans are putting forward the term the foundational black Americans, whereas they're trying to basically put a reset on their ancestral timeline. So they're basically like, we're Americans.
Are you stupid?
We're Americans. Our history starts in New Orleans when we was brought here.
Right.
As slaves. How can you start? But you were brought.
Yeah.
Right. That's a one statement in
itself. Yeah. So they brought here, and then whoever's born here is
and it
black
don't make
American.
no sense. Because at the end of the day, we have to accept what they do to we.
Yeah.
We have to accept that they've done it. They've done a great job on us, right? All right. For over 500 years and more, right? Africa been done to that. By the grace of our higher being, a man come to say no more. No more. Right? We in the diaspora are waiting for this Messiah. And where the Messiahs? We just got to not say and do.
Okay.
That's where it's at.
It is.
Contact us.
Yeah.
Because
I'd agree with that, yeah, but I do agree as well that the mindset, like you said, is sometimes a lonely one. Yeah, and sometimes people have to communicate to kind of like get the strength in numbers. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's not happening enough. Do you know what I mean?
I would hate to believe, because time is essential.
Yeah.
Right. We know France is waging war on Burkina Faso. Right? and they're amassing. They're doing what they do, right? And nobody's bothering them here, so they could take the mind off of that to concentrate on what they got home, right? This is where the mindset is, right? We are all over this place, and downtrodden. They don't respect us because we don't respect ourselves, right? And it's take the lesson, right? We can change the whole of this system, right? Just like he's trying to change the whole of the African system, right? We can change the face of this Europe, right? And make it face up to what it's done, right? Because we're all gonna stand and say, no more, right? There's so many little facets to being racially discriminated against. And I'm sick of it. You can't hide from it. We have become so immune to it.
Well, numb.
Numb.
I'm saying
Right?
numb
All
to
right,
it.
we come numb to it, and
Yeah.
we can just get on with our lives.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
And it's still festering
Yeah.
there and there and there
Yeah.
and there.
Well, not me. Well, I went through my thing where it's like recently, they know who they are. But I was like, I'm out of there. I said, I was like, I know what you're doing.
It's
I
not
was like,
nice.
I was like, I know what they're doing.
It's not
I was
nice.
like, I know what they were doing. Like, I took myself out of there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I took myself out of there because it's like there's no reason, and then I'm seeing, like, because I'm seeing the information following me being there, and it's like, well, everybody's on the same page as me as far as like the work, module and progression.
Yeah.
It's like I'm saying, well, you're all in the same boat as me. You're all
right.
Exhibiting the same flaws, like so. So it was like, so that's why I took myself away from that. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, microaggressions are just, it's getting too much now. And it's one thing where it's really like, it's messing with black people a lot in the workplace is microaggressions because you don't know where you are
That's
psychologically
Yep.
in your working environment.
Yep.
You always have to watch what you say, watch how you enter a room, leave a room.
Everything.
Like,
every single thing. And it's why?
Yeah.
I did not go through that.
Yeah.
And I want to be like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You don't have to worry about that.
I do that anyway. I do that
within,
anyway.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, we as a diaspora
Yeah.
need to let's support.
Because they tell you that just get education, just go through the right education channels,
And we have.
and you earn your qualifications, and then you get the job, and you do the job, you do the work, you keep the standard.
Everything is
You
just
get paid, you
to
come home.
maintain. Everything is to maintain the status quo.
Yeah.
Everything.
One thing
Right.
though, and it's what I'd say, which I find it's a bit sporadic, because there's a lot of movements out there, and they have a bit of a guideline going on, For instance, Christianity is like, do you know, they have a guideline, they have people that follow, people that they have a structure going on.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Now when we're saying, okay, the mindset, there's not enough guideline for people to say, right, this is the direction we're going in.
Yeah.
It's just figure it out yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's something that I think that, could be improved on, or thought about, and say, okay then, well, this is how we go about it then.
I've always found that,
go on there.
well, like I said, I've always found that with a lot of ways that people come around into changing their lifestyle to get a better lifestyle is that, like, one day they have to wake up to, like I said, like they have to be made aware of the lies first, of what's wrong first.
Right, so they know.
Do you know what I mean?
That's true, it's true.
Like,
Otherwise they don't know what they're looking
The
at.
questioning nature has to build, and I think one thing with Africa is that the common myth is that Africa, that is spread around the world, is that Africa is this like hard, this desolate land.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like, so that's one thing. It's like, well, what are we following them from? What we want to go back there for?
That is the mindset that we have because of
like,
of what the West has And we have succumbed to that. We don't want to go because we don't want to go because right. And it's a mindset. It stopped a lot of us going because we want our luxuries and everything, and then I show it with none of that, and you're thinking, I'm going there, I'm going shit in a hole. You know what I mean?
That's how they used to show. That's why we
and that has sold us our
£2
image,
a month,
right? And it's not so.
And before going there, like, this is what we're, you know what I mean?
And it's them that have kept us there because, like the man said, right? There's so much poor in Europe, yet you do not see the charities, right, as you see them in Africa, right? You don't see them. You know the pictures that you see on the telly, and you think, wait on, what wrong with you people? You know about the same, right? Why is it you're trying? Because you just want to milk it and get the money to milk it further. So they highlight them things to get us to support. You know what I'm saying? And
also so they can keep like going there and extracting the resources.
Yes, and that's what it's all about.
Because if you think Africa has nothing, you're not gonna.
You're gonna give.
You're not gonna investigate. If you automatically think there's nothing there, you're not going to investigate.
You're just going to give money and say, oh yeah, I want to make them better. And all you're doing is furthering that system to do what stupidness it's doing.
So,
I mean, at the end of the day, the only true, right, and heartical people that are supporting Africa are Africans. The West, it's like, it's very hard for the West to say they're doing anything to support us. Because we know underneath what they might get to do all of that. All them big things. You're in our country saying you're doing what you are do. But look what you get to do, what we are do. Oh, we don't get nothing, you get a lot. Right? And people are still left there. I can't go to a place to send me a go help, right, and leave the status quo. How many times have these people gone into Africa to say they're going to do this thing, right? And when they leave, Africa more or less the same way. They might build a well and say, you know what I'm saying? I mean, a surveyor tell me this. Right, this is what a surveyor tell me, right? He says, there's water in Africa, right? He says, but the powers that be stop them drilling to the depth of the water because of what's down there. I don't know. I mean, the surveyor told me that they're only allowed. Why only these big ass companies
can build the dams, build the dams,
and go down deep enough to get the water.
Right. Okay.
And when they're saying, "Oh, we're going to drop a sinkhole here," they're not. Why can't we do it ourselves? Because we can't drill it. Only government.
You're not allowed.
Not allowed.
That's what you mean.
Not allowed. They can't go and get water for themselves.
Even if they're on the land.
Even if they're on the land. No, they can't. It's the depth you can dig. Right?
Oh, you need permits.
Yes.
To go.
It's the depth you can dig. Right. So Africa could, do it.
That's how they
But this system and its laws that has done it means we can't even dig deep enough to go get the water. Right? So it's all about understanding.
It's all else. So same with like diamonds and other minerals, and you know even things like what they use for the phones.
Cobalt. Cobalt.
It's all.
It's in Burkina Faso. It's in Burkina Faso. He was telling us about them things.
Yeah.
I mean, we know we are mineral rich, and the only what has really got to us, as you say, is money. Is money really get to us? Because the amount of money they pay other countries, these westernized countries, for the minerals they got, and then they're paying us a minuscule for it, and then think, well, listen, pay us the money. If you want the thing, we're not saying we're not gonna give you.
Yeah.
We want the market value for what it is you're taking from us, right? Now, why should that cause any argument? Only because you're black and we can take from you. That's the only argument. There's no other argument in wherever you could say. Because at the end of the day, if any country, France, you want something from France, right? You gotta price up pay. And whatever France say is what you have to do. So what they must say about Burkina Faso? They can't say what they want.
So they call him a dictator.
They call him a dictator. At the end of the day, we as an African nation bring up on dictatorship. We are the chief, right? Our chief rulers. Alright, we are waiting for a Messiah now. Same way, right? Same mindset we're on. Right? That is not the consequence that man is doing what I'm doing, because he's pulling, right? And I'm just saying, we as a diaspora, man, we gotta wait. This
and how many assassination attempts is?
He's at 21.
21, yeah.
Something like that. No, the one thing in any organization we black man want to run, there's always one Barabbas. One. Right?
Right, yeah.
Always one. Don't matter what we do, right? It's take care of the Barabbas.
So, one deceptive and,
you have to take care of the Barabbas, because only the people that are the people will do what we got to do.
Regardless,
there will be a Barabbas in there, and only the people will have to know who is who. Because if Barabbas is going to come amongst us, we're going to fail.
That's why when you said, you got to explore some of the lies first before the truth, you get the truth, These kind of things. It's like sometimes people aren't aware of who the Barabbas is. Do you know what I mean? How do you find that out?
I mean, I suppose it's what I'll just call them cheaters, infiltrators, those that come into organizations just to disrupt.
That's right.
Right, and we will not be exempt.
But it's identifying them.
Only the true people will know, because everybody has to bring in somebody, right? And it's who you bring in.
Yeah, but you know what it is. We're in a situation now where it's got so deep that we're not even treating our own families right, not even our own households. Do you know what I'm saying? It's horrific.
Well,
that needs to change. That's a big thing. What needs to change?
I would go as far as to say that set the pace, right? Acknowledge this argument when it set up the pace, right? So this isn't a far cry, because this is setting the pace. This is where we're at. The diaspora is what we're looking for, right? The vehicle we have used is music, right? We will do what we got to do and say what we got to say via all of these things, right? Support us. We are go place, right? At the end of the day, that's the big question. the diaspora needs to just awaken, right? There's a change about there, right? And we are the ones that are bringing it
You see what happens though, yeah? You have kind of like situations where, and you both mentioned that, where it just takes one word you said, yeah? And then everybody gets on board. Do you know what I'm saying? But it needs to be the right kind of concept, and people will start. But until that happens, everybody's here, there, wherever, and there's no concentration or focus on it at all. But that's why I'm saying, well, how do you kind of break it down to get that?
Because there's, like I said, with the Messiah, what you were saying about the Messiah thing, you know, you get two ways of doing that. You get two ways. There's three. There's we as a people see what's happening to our kind somewhere else, and we all collectively feel an affinity. Like, there's that way. Then there's that one person, that one popular person that we all pay attention to, that raises the awareness, and we kind of, you know, adopt his affinity. Do you know what I mean? Like, for example, when Kanye West said George Bush don't care about black people because of what happened with the Hurricane Katrina.
Right.
So when he said it was like, oh right, okay, he's speaking on behalf of us. Do you know what I mean? And then we all adopted that. And then you've got the Trump way of when he was trying to put himself up as a political figure, and when he didn't get in there, then the Capitol Hill happened.
Right. Okay.
So that's when you get in that mass.
Yeah.
That mass assembly of people with the mindset, but all them things is like, it's like a powder keg of emotions. We got
and
emotions and information is that powder keg that. So it
sometimes they just open out that way, and all you've got to do, like you say, is just keep going. Yeah, that's what we do anyway. We keep going, but I'm just saying, is there a bit of a structure to where, okay, then we might reach the destination a little bit quicker or a bit more successfully? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Rather than going around in circles.
Yeah. I think the only.
Well, for me personally, what I'll be doing is I'll be taking. I want to know more about that country.
Yeah.
And I want to know about more.
I think
their leader. I want to know more about him, and I want to know, like.
Yeah, and the research. I mean, that's the big question. People that hear research. Yeah. That's all we're saying, right? I mean, as a diaspora, research it, right? Because this is where we're at. I'm not talking about Africa per se. I'm talking about racism, man. Racism have to just get kicked out. They won't arrest nobody for being racist, you know. Right? And that hurts us. Right? They don't want to see so many English people in prison. Right? That's why they will not make it a law.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm tired of it. Lock their ass up if they're racist. Right?
Well, you know, the way I've seen a few things, and I've seen the world kind of change, as we all have, but I've identified when things have changed across the globe. Do you know what I mean? Just, you know, at the click of a finger. So if them things can change, then I see that racism could as well. Long time. Do you know what I mean? It just needs it needs the right backing, but they don't want the backing there, because it benefits them not to have the backing there and to keep people in the position they are. Do you know what I'm saying? It always
does. Which is why I believe in, basically, I'm beyond the need, right? We got gotta know what we're gonna do. There was a time when we used to have telepathy, right? When we all know what we are saying. That's the overstanding. Okay? We got to all know what we're saying. There is
for the record, Ibrahim Traore is Traore?
Yeah.
Traore.
Yeah.
He's 37 years old.
Yeah. Young man.
Okay, very young,
Young man.
Yeah.
Right? And it took a young man to wake up old man. Right? Because there are countries that are coming to his aid. Like you see what they do with Ghana?
Go on.
Well, what the man saying Ghana, right? Trump now don't like Ghana. He telling everybody don't go Ghana.
Oh, that's what he said at the beginning.
Yeah.
Right,
Don't want them go Ghana because Ghana is supporting Burkina Faso. Right? And like I says, there is a domino effect that's going to go on. But it's in Africa. We don't want the battle just to be there.
Yeah.
It's gotta be over here.
So this is kind of what I'll say. So I'm looking up Ibrahim's. I was going to read one section in his Wikipedia. So he was in the army and he was promoted to captain in 2020. And Traore later stated that he became disillusioned with his country's leadership around this time, as he saw the widespread lack of equipment of
the army,
Burkinabe soldiers, while politicians were handing out suitcases of money for bribery. He gradually became the spokesperson for soldiers stationed in the north who were frustrated over their government. So,
that's
you see, it's that with a collective. You see, it's a collective.
His army, the fact that he was in an army, the fact that he was in the army is a good thing.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that is what we need. Right? We ain't got it yet because everybody's waiting for this Messiah. Right? And as I said, if we are the Messiahs, right, it's about waking up the Messiah in you. Right? I don't know what we will do, but I do know we'll do something, because this West has to feel our anger at what they're trying to do with Africa. Leave it alone. Right? If we trouble them over here, they can't divide themselves up in all these places. They can't. Right? So all the force won't be there. And there's a chance. The diaspora has to support them in that way. Give them a chance to succeed. Because if they succeed, we succeed. No more second-class citizen in a first-class world. Right? No more of that.
That's right.
Tired of that.
Yeah, that definitely needs to change from a long time ago. It should have never even. Do you know what I mean?
No, it should never have been, but it has existed because we have been waiting for a Messiah without noticing we've been waiting for a Messiah for nearly 2,000 years. Right? Without clicking. You know what I'm saying? We are the Messiah.
But you see, somewhere along the line, whether there is a Messiah coming or not, somewhere along the line, it was kind of manipulated to keep us down. Do you know what I'm saying? And used to keep, and
it is. Their tool is assassination.
A lot of the elder generations, like they followed that. Yeah, I think, like we say, when he was younger, there was a lot of pictures of the Caucasian Jesus about on walls and stuff and things like that, and it took the younger generations to kind of like say, look what's happening. It wasn't the case. Do you know what I mean? It's there in print. Do you know what I mean? We know that that's not the case, but I think that's the thing with the young. They got so much courage, the younger. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes we get setting up. That's why you got to listen to the kids as well as you teach them.
Yeah, you do.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I mean, the sad thing about this society is we have been brought up in a way that our youngsters have never ever seen. And when we talk to them of how things have to go, we are talking about how they used to go for we.
That's
and
right.
Growing up and everything.
That's right.
And this world that these young people are growing up in now is not like that.
Oh no, no.
And the fact that they're coming and saying different things to us, and we are getting angry. The anger is only because we don't know the world that they're growing up in.
That's correct.
right.
Right? And we're trying to tell them how to live in it when them are living it.
Yeah.
We're not
That's
living
correct.
it now, we're just functioning in it.
Yeah.
Right? So, and again, this is how society knows.
Yeah. You
They
can't
know
tell.
all
Yeah,
these
yeah,
things.
yeah.
They know all
You can't tell them what should be more important than their life right now.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, you can't impose your will on them.
No.
Certainly.
No, it's definitely not about
Yeah.
imposing our will. Our children, they have taught our children to be maybe
compliant.
subservient.
Compliant.
Yes.
Compliant.
Compliant, I say subservient, because there's a big generation that, and it's no slur on them.
And you know,
Benefits, right?
I feel it's a false sense of
Security.
yeah, and independence.
Yes.
Where it's like it's not so much they disguise it as freedom.
Yeah.
But what there really is like make yourself an asset to the system.
Yeah.
As fast as possible. Make it. Do you know what I mean? Make yourself valuable.
Yeah. That's
To the cause, and you know, you can find your own way to do it, but figure out how to assemble. Figure out how to.
that is everything we talk, right? Is what they have taught us.
Yeah.
Everything. Even some of the strategies we happen to use, right? And they are ours, but it's with the knowledge that they give us, so that we get them things, and we have to get out of that.
Yeah.
There's a Afrocentric mindset that with whatever idea we have, we big, right? They just take them and do what they got to do with it. I mean, from the time an African young person can create an engine and run off a piss, right? And that get a hush, don't happen. If you can make an engine run off a piss, why are we paying all this money?
Well, you know what though, and that's an old thing. You know that they could run off of water for a long time. You know what I mean?
Well,
not pee of water.
But the thing is,
Yeah.
was that an African invention?
I think it has been, but I think it's been even up to.
Cause water, you can't get water in Africa, you know.
Yeah, even up. It's energy. Yeah. But what it is, it's down to patency. Yeah. Whereas you don't really patent water. You might have a brand of it and patent, but water itself, it just runs. Yeah. With the electricity, with the petrol, with the oil, with the, do you know what I mean? It's so profitable. Yeah. But it can be run off sugar. It can be. I seen a program, and is it Prince Charles, King Charles? He said he's got a car that runs off red wine and cheese or something like that. Do you know what I mean? And he's had it so long, but it can run off water. And that's the thing we were saying before with the telepathy and the things like that. Them things, used to be very powerful. That's energy too. But it's run on harmony, and we don't have harmony. Do you know what I'm saying? Well, as in everybody's thinking along the same page. Everyone's thinking on different pages, which it blocks out the telepathy. Do you know what I mean? So we need to get on the same page. You know, we're always gonna have discussions. We're always gonna have different opinions and always, but that's how we're gonna grow in it, and we're gonna learn things.
And
like
that's
I said,
what
it's been a long time since. Like I said, they got really scared in the 90s. I'm telling you.
because
Someone got really scared.
We were together.
Because we almost had it.
Yeah, we were together.
We almost had it in 1990. By like 1991, black people all over the world, we almost had it.
But they said, do you know why they said we didn't get it? Because we didn't have organization.
No, but we had a spiritual. Well, they said we didn't have organization.
And when
because
you know what, everything we did in the 90s, right, created a stream of money to come. And that stream of money went to an organization because we didn't have an organization. And that organization turned out to be a Muslim organization. And if you notice from 1990 to where we be now, there's been a vast improvement in that. Right? So we know. And it did work. We just didn't have any organization to make it work for us. Right? So as you said, we all went to school now. Right? And silently, I mean, even some of our, there's people with a good mind financially to do what needs to be done. Right? And these are the people we have to tap into to be a part of we. Because we have to affect things, right? And it's just about, all right, this is our maiden discussion, and it bring up Africa, yeah? We will have others, but at the end of the day, we'll always come back to this, because we got to stay on, we got to kind of, I'd say promote it in the best way we can, for an understanding.
Yeah.
Right? It's just an understanding we hope to give. Right? Let people research. Don't matter what we say. Research and make your own mind up as to what's going on. Right? And just contact us. Let us know what's going on. That's what we're saying. So, respect and guidance for the time.
Bless, man. Bless.
Yeah. Tune in next time to the next exciting episode of
Set the Pace Podcast.
You know?
Yes,
yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else you wanna speak on before we, close?
I tell you what you did bring up.
Go on.
Religion. And you brought that up in a way that, because I am of the belief that religion has encapsulated our minds into a false, I would call it a demigod. In the nicest possible way. Because I was told you must not worship graven image. I was told that. And I have learned that this system here has had religion worshipping a graven image for time immemorial. And it's terrible.
Well, because they've polluted the philosophy of Christianity and what Jesus stood for. They've kind of made people idolize Jesus, and that whole thing of, Jesus is God, and that whole thing of where people are, and they've not really understood what Christianity is supposed
really
to
about.
represent. You know, because Christ was not. You know how, like you said, there's got to be like a system in place for people to understand what on the same page.
Yeah.
That's what Jesus was.
Yeah.
Jesus was sent. Whether he was sent or he had an awakening, whatever you believe, if you believe he's God's son or you believe that he was a man that became a prophet, his purpose was to reaffirm God's laws. That was his purpose. So he was re-establishing the discipline that God had set. So it wasn't so much that he was saying, I am like God the Son, literally, that you have to just believe he is God as his son. It was I'm here. So that's why you pray to, and it's like, that's why when you end your prayers, it's in Jesus' name. You're not praying to Jesus, you're praying to the Father. But I think a lot of people have got lost in that.
I think they
and they're praying to the cross. They're praying to the
that is
Jesus
what
piece.
religion has brought.
Yeah.
Religion has brought the graven image for you to worship.
Yeah.
Which is Jesus on the cross. And the overstanding, the fact that it's a graven image. Christians, all of them grew up saying you're not supposed to worship no graven image. Every single one of them.
Yeah.
Right? Yet they continue to.
Yeah.
And my mindset is how if the one thing that's like a commandment.
Yeah, because you could bring the way you do, because it's a distraction, because the way that they praise Jesus, you could praise Moses the same way, you could praise Joseph the same way, you could praise Noah the same way, because they were all saviors on a massive scale. Even when it says in the Bible, it says I am Jesus, the son of Jehovah, the son of Isaac, the son of Moses, the son of. So it shows that they're descendants of the same. But if you're focused on the person and not the message, you could idolize all of them. And like you said, all of them at some point have got a story where they've said, stop idolizing something. Moses, when he had to melt down the calf, because they were all worshipping the calf, and it's like, so they've all at some point told you, and it's like people get to a certain point and they forget, because it's and in this day it's like, that's what people are discussing it now when it comes to pastors,
right,
kind of putting themselves.
Right.
It's worse in America than over here. It's a lot worse in America than over here.
It's setting themselves
up.
It's
the pastors, the thing that everyone's flocking to. You know,
it's
and
terrible.
Rounding up the numbers, and and it's like it's getting a bit lost who they're there to believe in. It's getting lost who they're there to believe in. It's like it gets blurred if they're believing in.
Well, you got to remember
God's words, or
you got to
believing.
remember what they highlight. Jesus came to do, and what they highlight, what Jesus came to do. They say he came to take away our sins, right? And one of the way he take away our sins was to cleanse what the Lord had put as a beast, which was a pig, right? Now what this religion say to us is that it's good to eat that, because Jesus come and took all the sin away that said you could eat that and you could eat that.
Okay, right.
Right? And that was a mindset that get we to eat them. They never had it over there before they bring it. Right? And that was the mindset, because we never used to eat them kind of things. Right? But when Jesus came and cleansed it and said, right, I take all evil now, right? And say everything else is clean now.
Yeah, forgive you.
Forgive
your sins.
You could eat everything now.
Forgive your trespasses.
Yes.
As we forgive those that trespass.
and this is the mindset of what religion is. I don't denounce religion. And the reason why I can't denounce religion is because so many people believe in it.
Yeah.
Right?
And people need some people need it. Some people need a straight line path to salvation. Some people do. You know. Yeah. And it's not.
And I don't denounce it.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is be truthful. For me not to denounce it, stop worship graven image.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When the truth is the truth, don't keep telling me a lie. Every Sunday them a go. And it's terrible. It should not be happening. Right? And that's another thing that we as a black diaspora let run.
Of course. Yeah. You know, I remember when I went back home, there were so many churches. Wow. You know, obviously over here we know where our churches are, whatever, but it was everywhere.
Well, where was
that?
Where was that?
That was in Nevis, St. Kitts.
Oh, it was like from
so
one street and the other end of the street,
you know,
there was a church.
There is.
It's a lot.
They have put religion in us from an early age. Right?
You know.
And it's very hard to talk to our elders on a level like this.
Yeah.
Very hard.
Oh yeah. You can't tell them.
No, it's very hard.
No.
I mean, it's the things
they
that
may come back later down the line and say, "Oh, I understand where he was coming from now, but you can't directly come."
Yeah, you
like
can't
that.
disrespect. Yeah, you can't.
No, because they're not hearing it.
Yeah.
I mean,
disrespect.
The thing is, right?
You know.
There's so much truth.
And it's not so much disrespect sometimes, it's just...
Yeah, but it's
disrespect.
Questioning is disrespect. Like, questioning.
It's like, you know...
It's disrespect. In their eyes.
Our elders don't
Yeah, that's to question the Lord is to disrespect.
But I'll give you...
We don't question the Lord.
But
I'll give you one.
But the thing is, but it's in the Bible to have an inquisitive nature.
Yeah.
The Bible tells you, don't take my word for it. Do you know what I mean? Like, no, you don't need to take my word. You can go dip in the fire if you want to. I can't make you. Do you know what I mean?
It's given us the mind, yeah.
But you know, like you're gonna go that far? You really need to dip? You know what I mean? Some people, it's like don't get so burnt, and then you want to scream from in the flame. It's like, well, boy, you're a bit far down now. Like, you know. So, but it does tell you, like, listen, I can't make you do nothing. Do you know what I mean? And that's really when Jesus came in. It was just like, look, I can't make you do nothing. Do you know what I mean?
But ministers are. Ministers are making you do things.
Well, this is where it comes into who are you really worshipping?
Well, we know that
whose words. When you step into that church, whose word are you really following? Are you really reading and understanding the book?
It's terrible.
Or are you just taking your pastor's interpretation, your vicar's interpretation, your elder's interpretation? Do you know what I mean? Are you really
sweet? You know.
Yeah.
Evil is sweet.
And then, but the problem with that has arose now is when the LGBTQ have now their philosophy.
Well, again,
and
the one thing Trump said he do, which doesn't sit well with PC Brigade, right, is equate, and I hear say England will do the same.
Yeah.
I hear that England have now cut, well, I don't know if they cut funding to the LGBT group.
No.
I know America.
They've cut fundings. They haven't cut fundings.
They said that you've got you either from one gender or you're born.
Yeah. Basically, they said that you can't can't alter your medical record when you're born. That's the sex you have to deal with by law, government, and medical records.
Did this come about because of Trump?
No, Trump's one person that was like, this is what I'm thinking, but the main thing was the sports thing. I think the sports thing was the main thing because
of that girl.
There was a girl, there was the swimmer, there was a few different, there was the boxer, there was a few different incidents where it's like, you know.
Well, I think he did have a lot to do with it because he kind of.
Well, I think
all them things happened, but then he put his foot down and said, "Look, there's enough of that now. Otherwise, it'd still be we'd have just more cases of it."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think maybe he's just been like, as president, he's like, this is, and that's one thing. But I think it's been based on incidents that have come into account that has been like, well, look. But I think that the problem is with the male structure, it's like you're shattering female records as a male structure.
Right.
Someone that was a male that's a female, you have a history of a male structure. Your male structure will shatter female records. You know, like world records, like the 100-meter. You know, records are broken by milliseconds. Do you know what I mean? So if you've got someone that's 2 seconds to 3 seconds faster than everybody else that is
of the same gender,
it's like now even if you've taken them away from competing in that field, it's like, does their record still stand? And how long is it, if their record still stands, how long is it going to take, how many decades is it going to take before women can evolve to be able to beat that? Do you know what I mean? It just gets...
But you see that's where I see a lot of problems, that happen. They put them in place and then you've got to unwind. For instance, you mentioned people that would want to go back to Africa. But now, for whatever reason, they didn't go, but another reason is that they've built families as well. Do you know what I'm saying? And
our elders did that, but they didn't do that for their children to do that. They did it to bring up their children. That's all.
But anyway,
sorry, go on.
But anyway, but the reason why I was bringing up the LGBTQ is because now it's become a thing where the LGBTQ have a Christian community within that community. They have people that believe in Jesus Christ. They want to establish churches. They want to marry themselves. They want to do that. So, but they're standing against how many hundreds of years of people that have been taught through the Bible that homosexuality is a crime, it's a sin, it's a this, that. So now there's a case of you've got two different sects that are supposed to be Christians, but they're all arguing, does the Bible say this? Was this right? Would the Bible say this? Was this right or was this wrong? So but it goes back to, well, do you just read the book and come up to an interpretation for yourself based on how you understand the book, or do you trust in your vicar, trust in your pastor, to tell you what the Bible means? Do you trust them to tell you what the Bible means based on their interpretation of it and their understanding of it, or do you know what I mean? Do you go by what's been taught for hundreds of years?
I think it's because we went to school.
Yeah.
Right? And in school, there was a lesson called Bible studies.
Yeah.
Right? Now, it's got nothing to do with church.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with that.
Because I think they changed it. I think by our time it was religious education. They couldn't just teach one to everybody. Carry on.
And so that is where our grounding came from with this scripture things. Because we used to have these religious studies in school. And that was basically us going to church, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Go to church. But we had all that religion instilled in us and our moral codes and all of that kind of stuff. They don't do that anymore, right? But the standard of the world that we currently live in now is not a moralistic country.
And I think that, and I agree with you, because I don't think that I'll be very surprised in the next few years if they teach religious education at all, because I think that they're gonna have a difficult time getting everybody to be accepting of learning everybody's religions.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? I just think that there's gonna be a lot of that, and I know incident where people not even in religious education, but they've had people being like, well, I don't want my son, my daughter, my children learning this in school, so they're not going to this class, they're not going to that class. And I think at the peak of that kind of attitude is religious education. It's like, do you know what I mean? It's like, well, I don't want my child of this religion even knowing what's going on over there. Do you know what I mean? You know, because they'll just, it's just step one to whatever. Do you know what I mean? So I'll be, well, and it's unfortunate, but I'll be very surprised if by the next 10 years, like, religious education. No, if religious education is still in schools, I'll be very surprised.
Well,
if by like the next 10 years,
it may come under a different aspect or different.
Yeah. Or it might be optional.
Even
it might be
a different subject.
Yeah.
A different name. Do you know? As in,
yeah.
Because it's difficult. I kind of like relate religion to other things like the movement of some of the social medias.
Yeah.
I look at some of the comparisons and the followings and the business plan and you know what I mean.
Yeah. Cultural studies and
it's probably one of them are probably as big as any of the religions.
Oh, what social media? Yeah.
As in numbers wise.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
It's something that people of every faith get involved in. Do you know what I mean? So when I say it may in future come under a different subject or a different name, it could be a different direction people are going in.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
There's a field that's going to go in.
Do you know what I mean?
No, because they're already starting with the YouTubers and the
right.
Content creators. They're already becoming a more prominent figure and factor in people's decisions now than ever.
Right.
It's just now Kanye West has acted up again on the Piers Morgan. He's acted up again.
Okay.
And Sneeko was right next to him. Some YouTuber was right next to Kanye West. Like,
I seen a little clip. Yeah, there was a guy next to him.
Yeah, he's a YouTuber.
He stood up and walked
yeah,
up.
but the other guy, he's a YouTuber.
He's
just on YouTube. He started off on the internet just chatting, telling jokes, doing podcasts like us. Yeah. Now he started off doing that. Yeah. Now he's next to Kanye West.
Next to Kanye.
And he's just
on the Piers Morgan show.
Yeah, because on some level or another, his presence matters.
Right. Yeah.
At least to Kanye West. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it's a bit mad.
Yeah.
So it's just
what we on?
We're nearly half past now. I think nearly half past.
It's gone now.
Oh yeah, 20 to 1. Yeah.
Right, so we're gonna close it.
Yeah. We'll finish it up.
We've got next week.
Yeah, we've got next week. We'll figure out what we're gonna talk about next. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Just follow me Instagram Bruce Leeds. Shout out to Kel Islam. I just got my last songs that I needed mastering for my latest project, Leonardo episode 2. So that will be getting put together, and I'll be letting you know when that's coming out. But yeah, I'm aiming for July because I'm feeling good about this summer, so I'm aiming for July. Okay. Yeah.
Big shout, man. Big shout. Yeah, man. You catch me on this channel. Well, I One Life or It's One Life, depending on which platform. Yeah. So there, man. Simple.
And you're gonna catch me with them.
Yeah.
Yes, people. Big up, big up, big up.
Guidance.
All right. Yeah.